To celebrate the upcoming 10-year anniversary of Peaky Blinders, I thought I would rank the seasons pertaining to perhaps one of the greatest TV series ever made. Peaky Blinders focuses initially on a local razor-blade street gang in Birmingham, centering around Tommy Shelby, to which eventuates in the ascension of power of both the gang and its intellectual nucleus. Also, a quick disclaimer, these are solely my opinions and you may very well disagree. Leave a comment in the description if you do, and let me know what your rankings would be. Coming in at 6th place, and possibly the most controversial choice in this ranking, is Peaky Blinders Season 4. However, even though Season 4 is last, it still manages to have one of my top 5 episodes from within the whole series, that being Season 4, Episode 1. Season 4 of Peaky Blinders focused on the Italian mafia pursuing a vendetta against the Peaky Blinders for the killing of their gang leader, Vincente Changretta, as well as one of his sons, Angel Changretta. After Vincente was killed in Season 3 by Arthur Shelby, word of this reached his eldest son Luca, whom resided in America at the time. Enraged, Luca acquired his men and waged a war on the Peaky Blinders within England, vowing to destroy and take everything from them as they did to him. Sounds pretty amazing, right? Well, yes and no. Now, first off, I must state that even though this is the lowest ranking, it does not mean I do not like the season. It's just that out of the 6 amazing seasons of television, this one falls the shortest. The main reason this season is in the last place for me regards the overall sloppy feeling which it emitted. The whole dynamic between the Italian mafia and Peaky Blinders fell flat, especially considering the stakes which were set up in episode 1, and the sheer amount of tension, suspense, and anticipation in which it left the viewer feeling. Tommy's chef is a Black Hand, a member of Luca's entourage. How deep does this go? Does Tommy have people in his gang who are Luca's? People in his businesses, etc.? And not to mention the display of power through John being gunned down at the end of the first episode, showing that the Italians were, not to put it lightly, fucking around. That is, until around mid-season. Episode 2 continues to depict the tension and suspense, but to a much lesser degree than Episode 1, with the highlight being the meeting between Tommy and Luca, to which he states he is going to kill his whole family first to omit the most pain and dread from Tommy. That sounds amazing. However, in Episode 3, this is all undone, and Luca decides to make a deal with Polly to not do exactly what he just said, all in aid of a plot twist in the final episode which reveals this was all part of Tommy's plan. It's just a cheap way to implement a plot twist and to make Tommy Shelby seem like a criminal genius at the expense of what could have been a formidable villain and an even more formidable organization. On top of that, the whole Arthur fake-out death once again seemed like a ploy to trick the audience into thinking he was dead, and it would have been pretty neat too, if it was at least a little believable. Once again, simply adding in a last-minute plot twist for no real effect. Now, I still did enjoy this season a lot, albeit minus Luca's over-the-top stereotyping here and there by Adrian Brody the actor. It introduced Aberama Gold, a fan favourite, as well as interesting storyline regarding Jessie Eden, whom however did not nearly have enough screen time to fully flesh out her story and potential impact on Tommy Shelby's business. Regarding the aesthetics of this season, this also happened to be the weakest for me, and in all the episodes besides episode 1, the cinematography just was a bit bland. All in all, a Reddit user by the name of Grizzle Gore put it best. The impression I had about the Italian mafia was jumping from a highly dangerous organization to a dozen of barely coordinated thugs. Now, however, in 5th place happens to be arguably the most aesthetically pleasing and cinematic season of them all, Season 6. Season 6 of Peaky Blinders really was a deeper insight into the mind and life of Tommy Shelby, presenting a more or less entire season as a character study. Now I can see how this was a massive turnoff for those who enjoyed the larger gang aspects and camaraderie depicted in the first few seasons. However, personally, I don't mind it. Actually, I quite liked it. Now, whether you'd like to admit it or not, Peaky Blinders is always focused predominantly on Tommy Shelby. He is without a doubt the main character and most popular character within the TV series. Hell, he's even more powerful than God according to my YouTube polls. On a side note, I absolutely love that no matter who I put Tommy up against, he always flawlessly wins. The polls have even made it to the Peaky Blinders subreddit. Now, Season 6, like I said, focuses on Tommy Shelby and his main conflict with Michael and the fascists of England and America, reintroducing characters as Oswald Mosley, and introducing new ones like Jack Nelson and Hayden Stagg. The biggest issue I have with Season 6 is that the Michael plotline felt extremely underwhelming, to say the least. But they cannot wholly be blamed for that, as the passing of Helen McCrory, rest in peace, definitely changed the plans for this final season. With the character of Polly being absent from the final season, it is undeniable to feel that the overall course of the season had changed, for better or for worse. We will never know. As well as this, I can't help but feel that this season was originally meant to be 2 seasons, and with the creators previously stating that the show was originally meant to be 7 seasons plus a movie, but recently changed to 6 seasons plus a movie, this all but confirms it. Let's look at it like this. I believe that season 6 would have originally been the war between Michael and Tommy, inclusive of Jack Nelson and Mosley storyline, and in season 7, after Tommy had beaten Michael and all of his external enemies, his daughter would get sick and would have to deal with the emotional trauma of not being able to protect and save her. Almost like in The Godfather Part 3, when Michael's daughter dies. With all of Tommy's power, he would have been powerless. However, it is not worth harping on what could have been, and on an alternative note, Season 6 does literally have some of my most favourite moments from the whole of Peaky Blinders. First off, it has amazing scenes between Tommy and Arthur, the best in the series without doubt, such as from their cellar chat in episode 4 to their conflict and resolution in the final episode. Absolutely amazing, and demonstrates what has been the backbone of the Peaky Blinders gang since day one: family. Secondly, the final episode of this season, being the final episode of the whole series, happens to once again be in my top 5 and is perhaps the best ending to a TV show that I've ever witnessed, with Tommy literally redeeming himself, riding out on a white horse, with his possessions burning in the background. There isn't a more poetic ending, especially considering in the first episode ever, he rides in on a black horse. The consensus that this is one of the best season endings to any TV show ever also seems to be the general thought amongst viewers. And finally, cinematography was on another level. The overall quality of the show was the best it had ever been. Coming in at 4th place is Season 1. Season 1 of Peaky Blinders has a special place in my heart. It feels nostalgic and unique with regards to its cinematography, soundtrack, setting, and characters. Season 1 focused on the ascension of Tommy Shelby and his Peaky Blinders gang, introducing such pivotal characters as his initial love interest Grace, and a great antagonist in Major Campbell. Not to mention including the iconic and massively entertaining Billy Kimber.
I am Billy Kimber!
Season 1 takes its time dissecting and taking us through the experience of the lower class citizens of Birmingham, struggling with poverty, addiction, and economic downturn, whilst also focusing in on the Peaky Blinders gang's struggle for power and lesser activities that make themselves renowned and financially capable. The only downside I had regarding this season was that sometimes the pacing was a little slow regarding the Major Campbell and Grace scenes, mainly when those two share the screen together. It just falls a bit flat sometimes. Some of these scenes are still brilliant, however, but not as entirely interesting as the other aspects of this show, such as the storyline with Billy Kimber, or even when these two characters share the screen with other characters like Tommy and Polly. Perhaps my most favourite aspect of this season is the camaraderie shared by the gang as a whole. Scenes with all the gang members inclusive of the main cast, plus characters like Scudboat. Yeah, I bet you forgot about him, didn't you? Well, so did the writers. This dynamic of a team working together to achieve a powerful status and cement a legacy for themselves is amazing, and a highlight of the whole 6 seasons really. And the season 1 ending, with the acquisition of power by the Peaky Blinders, Campbell seemingly defeated, and the ambitions made known to head to London for their next move. It really was the perfect first season and led to a high amount of anticipation for the second. And I mean, come on, the feelings like hearing Merle by Sheep play at the end of episode 1 will never be topped. There's just something special and nostalgic about this whole season. Funnily enough, it's also the 10-year anniversary of Peaky Blinders this year, as I mentioned previously. Perhaps the second most controversial placing on this list comes in the form of Peaky Blinders Season 3 at rank 3. Now, Season 3 follows the Peaky Blinders and more directly Tommy Shelby as they decide to do business with the Russians. I love Season 3 as it perhaps depicts the lowest point that Peaky Blinders, and more specifically Tommy, has ever been in. His wife is killed by the Italians, his son is stolen by a secret society inclusive of pedophiles, and he is beaten to near death. Tommy loses it all. The depths he would go to regarding the vengeance for his family, his ambitions, and his lust for control, such as with Arthur and the confirmation of his loyalty through the actions committed, are all deeply analysed within this season, and it makes it for a worthwhile, amazing viewing experience. Not to mention, Alfie Sullivan's this season as well is absolutely incredible, perhaps even having his best scene ever in episode 6, the iconic "You Crossed the Line" scene. As well as the comedic gold in the Russian basement, where he is analysing gems and stones. The duality yet interrelatedness of Alfie and Tommy throughout this season is incredible, and adds real depth to the dynamic. Are they worst enemies, or are they each other's only true friends in this life of betrayal, deceit, and envy? This season has also fantastic antagonists, in the likes of Father Hughes and Tatiana Petrovna. Tatiana has an interesting dynamic with Tommy after his wife is killed, and almost represents Tommy's fall into darkness and debauchery. Every scene these two shared together was entertaining and exhilarating. And for Father Hughes, he well may be just the most evil villain the show has ever had. He is a slimy, vile child molester whom seemed to be almost unbeatable. The organisation he worked for, known as Section D, was literally unbeatable, as they are still present all the way through to Season 5 and presumably Season 6, as well as being responsible for all the arrests of the Peaky Blinders gang at the end of Season 3. Paddy Considine, also known for his role as King Viserys in House of the Dragon, was sensational and added depth and a stroke of evil to the character, which was unnerving and a treat to watch on TV. One of the only villains I've ever genuinely hated. Furthermore, Polly's storyline is expanded upon, specifically with a new love interest, whom she struggles to settle down with and become comfortable with after the heinous acts which happened to her in Season 2, pertaining to her rape at the hands of Major Campbell. This season showed her recovery and a new emotional level and vulnerability to Polly that was previously unseen. Not to mention, Season 3 is perhaps Arthur's best season. He's introduced with his new wife Linda, whom has tried to put him on the right and narrow path, to which he struggles with. A beautiful scene which depicts this in episode 1, where he is fighting the Russian informant underground at Tommy's wedding, with him verbally and physically hating the action which he is needing to undertake, in the end succumbing to his old self and killing him in cold blood. His constant struggles with good and evil throughout the season make for a delight to watch, and depict Arthur at the best he's ever been written in Peaky Blinders. Season 3 in general was a well-written, intriguing, and unique season of Peaky Blinders. The next two spots could easily be interchanged, and they often are for myself. So with that being said, coming in at second place is Peaky Blinders Season 5. If Season 6 was the redemption of Tommy Shelby, Season 5 was the fall. This is arguably the season in which Tommy is the most mentally unstable and deranged, constantly paranoid, infuriated, and albeit scared of what is and what can be. Throughout the season, we see Tommy guzzling opium to dull the pain he has in his head, nonetheless caused by such as Michael's inability to listen correctly and the sheer dominance of Oswald Mosley, the season's main antagonist over Tommy Shelby and his life. Season 5 mainly covers Tommy's political undergoings, intertwined with a rivalry against a new gang named the Billy Boys. Now, personally, I adored this season, as I don't mind the political drama here and there, more specifically such dramas as House of Cards, etc. So to see Tommy attempt to conquer yet another faculty of his ambition was enjoyable to watch, albeit if it didn't all go to plan. This is thanks in most part due to his own paranoia and the introduction of Oswald Mosley. First, his paranoia throughout the season is immeasurable. His manic episodes are a clear sign of this. He constantly confides in Ada, his sister, as to whom is coming for his throne, who wants to overthrow him. His paranoia almost reaches the same level as Ronnie Cray during his tenure as gang lord of London in the 1960s. Furthermore, people's inability to follow his orders further adds to his anger and frustration. As if his members and partners had listened to him, certain scenarios would have not occurred, such as Polly freeing Aberama, or Michael holding onto the stocks and losing a large proportion of company money. Now, secondly, onto perhaps my favourite antagonist of the whole series, Oswald Mosley. Mosley constantly depicted in the season that he was always one step ahead of Tommy, as well as being more powerful. Such can be seen in the scenes within his office, the four-way mating between Tommy, Arthur, Michael and Mosley, as well as the shooting scene where Mosley straight up dictates what Tommy will do, and that it is not a partnership of equals. Furthermore, to add to his credibility, Tommy literally did not beat him this season. His assassination attempt failed and Mosley survived. The first time ever in the series that an antagonist survived and bested Tommy. Also, his pure wit and intellect when facing off against Tommy was well known. He didn't necessarily present himself as a very masculine man through his body language and mannerisms, yet he oozed power and authority, even intimidating Tommy on numerous occasions. Although Season 6 objectively had the best cinematography and production value, the art style and just style direction of Season 5 has to be my favourite. It's beautiful, dark, gothic, and moody. It really is a treat for the eyes to look at, and has some of the most innovative shots the series has ever seen. On top of all this, Season 5 possibly has the greatest episode in all of Peaky Blinders. That being Season 5, Episode 6. Where do I begin? This episode is perfect. From the tension that's built up during the family meeting with Michael vs. Tommy and Arthur struggle to commit violent crimes which they once so easily did, Alfie's triumphant return, in which is arguably the greatest scene the two characters share, and finally, to top it all off, the failed assassination attempt on Mosley, and the aftermath of. The whole episode was a sensational hour and 10 minutes of viewing, and shows what Peaky Blinders is capable of at its best. This season also happened to have my favourite soundtrack of any season. So good. I even purchased it when it released for a limited time. Now, finally, I'm sure you've guessed it by now, in my number one spot, we have Peaky Blinders Season 2. What can I say? This might be just Peaky at its best. Intrigue, tension, ambition, power, love, it has the whole package. Season 2 mainly follows the Peaky Blinders gang and their expansion into London, specifically the club and racetrack scene. The season begins strong and maintains this foundation through to the end, with once again an amazing finale. Arguably being the best episode of the whole series, as most viewers will state. Tommy in this season is working through the feelings he felt for Grace previously, before her betrayal and even after, as well as pursuing his ambitions to gain more power and money, broadening his gang and establishing the Peaky Blinders as the main gang of England. This season is non-stop entertainment, with every episode providing a pleasurable experience. From the club fights in episode 1, to the first meeting of Alfie and Tommy, through to the packed finale, which takes place largely at Epsom. It's all fantastic, and I would be doing it all an injustice to explain it all in this video. Quite simply, go watch it. Fan favourites Alfie Solomons and May Carlton also made an appearance, with Alfie being introduced in this season. He has some amazing scenes with multiple characters. Major Campbell returns as well and is more evil than previously. More members of the Peaky Blinders gang are included, such as Scudboat, even Michael, Polly's son, was first introduced in Season 2. And I couldn't mention Season 2 without mentioning that amazing scene in the final episode. The final episode included an iconic scene of Tommy in an open field preparing for his death, to which he eventually survives. However, his sheer disappointment at what could have been, how close he came to achieving everything, and his reaction to it is heart-wrenching every time and truly a special moment of television. There are just too many good things to say about Season 2, and that's why it comes in at number 1. So, with all that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. I also recently just hit 100,000 subscribers. I just wanted to say a huge thank you. This has been a dream of mine for years on end. Funny story actually, I started an alternative YouTube channel back in 2018, my first YouTube channel, playing Fortnite. I uploaded on that consistently for years until 2020, to which I stopped. Then I saw some shorts similar to the ones I make now and thought, hey, why can't I do that? And Lord behold, under 12 months later, I hit 100,000 subscribers. It's actually insane, and I'm truly grateful. Words really can't describe it. So, with that being said, thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day or night wherever you are.